Steve Jobs' story begins in a quiet suburban neighborhood in California, where warm sunlight filled the streets and curiosity shaped the rhythm of his childhood. Long before he became a visionary, he was simply a boy trying to understand the world around him, fascinated by how things worked beneath the surface. His adoptive parents, Paul and Clara Jobs, nurtured him with gentleness, supporting his early questions and encouraging him to explore whatever caught his attention. Their home was steady and calm, giving Steve the freedom to let his imagination wander freely. In this environment, he learned that thinking differently wasn't a flaw. It was a gift. As a child, Steve developed a habit of staring intently at objects, trying to understand the hidden logic inside them. He would take apart radios, rewiring circuits with quiet focus until each piece made sense. These early experiments weren't about building something new, they were about learning how things fit together. His mind gravitated toward simplicity, searching for the cleanest path to clarity. Even at a young age, he felt drawn to ideas that made complex things feel beautifully uncomplicated. In school, Steve often struggled with boredom, preferring to follow his own curiosity rather than the structure of the classroom. Teachers sometimes misread his restlessness as rebellion, but his parents understood that he simply thought differently. They saw that his creativity needed space, not restrictions, and they encouraged him to trust his instincts. This support helped him grow into someone who valued intuition as highly as logic. That balance of instinct and intellect would later shape every major chapter of his life. When Steve moved into middle school, he found himself increasingly drawn to electronics and design. He spent afternoons in his father's garage, a quiet space filled with tools, wood scraps, and half-finished projects. His father taught him the importance of craftsmanship, showing him how even unseen parts of an object deserved care and attention. Steve absorbed this lesson deeply, realizing that true quality came from respecting every detail. This early exposure to intentional design quietly guided his ideas for the rest of his life. One of the most important turning points came when Steve met Steve Wozniak, a gentle and brilliant older student who loved building things for the joy of creation. Wozniak was shy, thoughtful, and incredibly gifted with electronics, while Steve was imaginative, curious, and deeply intuitive. Their personalities were different, but their fascination with technology formed an immediate bond. They would talk for hours, exploring ideas that felt impossible to others. In these conversations, a friendship formed that would eventually reshape the technology landscape. What made their partnership powerful was the way it combined two perspectives into one vision. Wozniak understood engineering with natural elegance, creating circuits that worked beautifully. Steve understood people, emotion, and design, sensing how technology should feel rather than just how it should function. Together, they discovered a balance that allowed their ideas to grow naturally. Their early projects were small, pranks, gadgets, playful inventions, but each one strengthened the quiet trust between them. By the time Steve entered his late teens, he had begun searching for meaning in a deeper, more reflective way. He read widely, explored spiritual ideas, and questioned what a meaningful life truly looked like. These explorations took him on long walks, silent retreats, and personal journeys that broadened his view of the world. He became interested in meditation, simplicity, and the belief that intuition could be a reliable guide. This phase of searching refined his sense of purpose and grounded him emotionally. After leaving high school, Steve enrolled at Reed College, but the structure of traditional education still conflicted with the way he thought. He attended classes that inspired him and quietly abandoned the rest, often sleeping on friends' floors while spending his limited money on calligraphy and spiritual books. These moments, though difficult, helped him develop a profound respect for beauty and typography. The calmness of calligraphy, with its deliberate strokes and quiet precision, stayed with him long after he left Reed. Years later, this fascination would influence the core design of Apple's earliest products. During this period, Steve continued to deepen his belief that life should be built around intention rather than expectation. He learned that meaningful ideas often emerge in silence, not noise, and that intuition grows strongest when given space to breathe. These insights began shaping how he approached creativity, design, and work. He understood that to create something truly impactful, he needed to honor both the outer world of technology and the inner world of emotion. This understanding became the foundation for the way he would later build Apple. When Steve returned to California, he found Wozniak experimenting with a small personal computer he had designed on his own. Woz's creation wasn't meant to start a company, it was simply a project that reflected his joy for engineering. But when Steve saw it, he sensed its potential immediately. He believed that computers could be more than tools for hobbyists. They could be part of everyday life for people who had never touched one before. This intuition sparkled brightly, reminding him of the early lessons from his childhood, that clarity, simplicity, and intentional design could change everything. With that realization, Steve convinced Wozniak that they should build a company together. It was a decision rooted not in ambition but in possibility, guided by a belief that technology could feel personal, warm, and accessible. They named the company Apple, a simple, friendly word that reflected the kind of experience they wanted to create. Their first products were assembled in garages and spare rooms, built with care, passion, and a shared sense of purpose. Steve felt a deep calm during these early days, knowing that for the first time he was building something that aligned with who he truly was. Steve Jobs, Calm Motivational Documentary, Segment 2, 4, correct, 4, 5, sentence paragraph format. As Apple began to take shape, Steve brought an energy that blended creativity with an intense desire for clarity. He cared deeply about how things looked, how they felt, and how they connected to the people who used them. His vision wasn't only about function, it was about emotion, experience, and the quiet joy that comes from using something beautifully made. He believed technology should be friendly, human, and warm, even in the smallest details. This belief gave Apple a spirit that felt different from anything else in the industry. The Apple II, one of the company's first major successes, embodied this philosophy. While other computers felt complicated and industrial, the Apple II felt approachable, with color graphics and a design that welcomed beginners instead of intimidating them. Steve saw computing as something personal, believing that ordinary people could benefit from tools once reserved for experts. This perspective shaped how Apple presented itself to the world, emphasizing simplicity and connection over raw technical power. It marked the beginning of a long journey toward redefining the relationship between humans and machines. As Apple grew, Steve's role evolved from tinkerer to visionary leader. He pushed the team beyond what they believed was possible, urging them to think more boldly and focus more deeply. His expectations were high because he believed deeply in what they were building. He challenged people not to settle for good enough, but to create something that felt alive, intuitive, and meaningful. This relentless pursuit of quality became one of Apple's defining traits. The development of the Macintosh became one of the most passionate chapters of Steve's early career. He envisioned a computer that anyone could use, regardless of their technical background. He wanted it to feel simple, elegant, and joyful, with a graphical interface that brought ideas to life in a way no one had seen before. The Macintosh team worked intensely, inspired by Steve's vision and driven by their own belief in the future they were helping create. It wasn't an easy process, but it was fueled by purpose. When the Macintosh launched, it changed the industry forever. The friendly interface, the icon-based desktop, and the personality of the machine all reflected Steve's obsession with making technology feel human. Even the way the computer greeted users carried the warmth he believed in. Yet, despite its innovation, the Macintosh faced challenges: high costs, competition, and internal conflict at Apple. The company struggled, and tensions grew around Steve's leadership style. What followed became one of the most difficult moments of his life. Steve was pushed out of Apple, the company he had helped build, from nothing. It was a moment that could have broken him, a moment filled with disappointment, confusion, and uncertainty. Yet instead of falling into bitterness, he chose to see it as a new beginning. He realized that although he had lost Apple, he had not lost his curiosity, his creativity, or his desire to build. This quiet resilience carried him into the next unexpected chapter of his journey. He founded Next, a company focused on creating high-quality computers for education and professionals. Next was not a commercial success in the way Apple had been, but the experience allowed Steve to grow in ways he never expected. He became more reflective, more patient, and more thoughtful about how to lead people effectively. Next also introduced technologies that would later become essential to Apple's future, including the foundation of modern macOS. It was a reminder that even painful chapters can plant seeds for something greater. During this time away from Apple, Steve also became deeply involved with Pixar, a small animation studio struggling to survive. He invested in the company, supported its experiments, and encouraged the creative minds inside it to follow their instincts. Pixar's early years were filled with uncertainty, but they were also filled with imagination. Steve believed that storytelling and technology could blend in powerful ways. His support eventually helped bring Toy Story to life, the world's first full-length computer-animated film. Pixar's success transformed animation and introduced Steve to a different kind of creative leadership, one rooted in trust, collaboration, and emotional authenticity. He learned to appreciate the power of story, the importance of teams, and the value of giving people space to explore big ideas. These lessons softened him, helped him grow, and prepared him for something he never expected: a return to Apple. Sometimes, life leads us back to the places we thought we had left behind. Apple, now struggling financially and creatively, acquired Next in search of new technology and new direction. Through this acquisition, Steve returned to the company he had once built in a garage, but he returned not as the same fiery young man who had left, but as someone wiser, calmer, and more grounded. His years away had shaped him into a leader capable of guiding Apple into its next era. And that next era would change everything. When Steve returned to Apple, he found a company with extraordinary potential, but no clear direction. Products were scattered across too many categories, innovation had slowed, and the spirit that once defined Apple had dimmed. Yet Steve did not rush or panic. He approached the chaos with calm clarity. He believed that the first step toward rebuilding was simplification. By removing distractions, the essential could rise again. One of Steve's earliest decisions was to streamline Apple's product line, reducing dozens of overlapping models into a simple and focused selection. He wanted the company to invest its energy into fewer products that were crafted with intention, depth, and emotional resonance. This shift was not about shrinking, it was about creating space for creativity to breathe. His approach reminded the team that focus is a form of power. With fewer distractions, excellence became easier to pursue. As Steve guided Apple forward, he revived the spirit of design that had always been central to his vision. He encouraged teams to think not only about what a product could do, but about how it should feel in the hands of a person. He believed design was not an afterthought, but the heart of innovation. This belief created a renewed culture where technology and artistry worked together in harmony. The company began moving with a sense of purpose that had been missing for years. The release of the iMac marked Apple's first major step into a new era. The product was bold, colorful, friendly, and unlike anything on the market. It embodied Steve's philosophy that technology should bring joy and simplicity into people's lives. The iMac did more than revive sales, it revived Apple's identity. It reminded the world that computers could be fun, approachable, and beautiful. With the iMac's success, Apple found momentum, and Steve continued pushing the company to think beyond conventions. He believed that the future of technology wasn't limited to computers sitting on desks. He envisioned a world where music, communication, and creativity could be integrated seamlessly through devices that felt natural to use. This idea led to the creation of the iPod, a small device with an elegant interface that changed how people interacted with music. Its simplicity made it instantly iconic. The iPod wasn't just a product, it was a statement about the power of clarity. Steve insisted that a device should remove friction, not create it. He believed that people deserved experiences that felt effortless, even if the technology behind them was complex. This belief influenced how Apple designed software, packaging, stores, and every point of interaction. Each detail mattered because every detail shaped how the user felt. As Apple grew stronger, Steve began shifting his attention to an even bigger idea, one that would reshape communication, media, and daily life. He wanted to create a single device that combined music, phone capabilities, and internet access into a unified, intuitive experience. The idea felt ambitious, even impossible, but Steve approached it the same way he approached every major decision. He asked whether it would improve people's lives in a meaningful way. When the answer was yes, he trusted the vision. The development of the iPhone was one of the most intense yet inspiring chapters in Apple's history. Steve guided teams with precision, encouraging them to rethink basic assumptions and explore new possibilities. He believed that innovation came not from adding more features, but from creating clearer experiences. This mindset helped break through countless obstacles and technical challenges. When the iPhone was finally revealed, it marked the beginning of a new era of personal technology. The iPhone became a turning point not because of its specifications, but because it connected deeply to human behavior. It allowed people to interact with technology in a natural, intuitive way. It blended communication, creativity, and productivity into a device that fit in the palm of a hand. Steve saw this not as a triumph, but as a reminder that innovation becomes powerful when rooted in empathy. He believed the best products understood people before people understood the products. After the iPhone came the iPad, a device that expanded what people could create, watch, and explore. While many questioned its purpose, Steve believed that tablets would unlock new forms of expression and learning. His calm confidence in intuitive design once again guided the company toward success. He trusted that if a product felt right, if it felt natural, people would eventually understand its value. Time proved him right once more. During these years, Steve's leadership evolved into a blend of intensity and insight. He still expected excellence, but his experience had taught him the value of trust and creative freedom. He encouraged his teams to think boldly, to follow their instincts, and to challenge traditional boundaries. Apple became more than a company, it became a movement rooted in intentional design. The world began to associate Apple with beauty, simplicity, and meaning. Even as Apple reached extraordinary heights, Steve remained deeply connected to the process of creation. He spent hours in design meetings, studying prototypes, and refining details. He believed that great work required presence, focus, and a willingness to remove anything unnecessary. His dedication inspired those around him, showing that calm determination could lead to world-changing innovation. He understood that crafting something meaningful was not about speed, but about depth. Yet beneath the surface of all this success, Steve faced growing health challenges that quietly began shaping the way he viewed life. His diagnosis confronted him with questions about time, purpose, and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. Rather than withdrawing, he approached his illness with introspection. He reflected on his choices, relationships, and the meaning behind his work. This period brought a new layer of humility and gratitude to his life. Even as his health fluctuated, Steve continued guiding Apple with clarity. He focused on building a leadership culture that would outlast him, ensuring that the values he cared about, simplicity, intention, and emotional resonance, remained central to the company's identity. He understood that legacy is not what you create alone, but what continues after you're gone. With this awareness, he grew more reflective, sharing wisdom with those around him in quiet, meaningful conversations. As Apple introduced its final products under his leadership, Steve felt a mixture of pride and peace. He saw how the company had grown, how people had grown, and how his vision had transformed not just technology, but the relationship people had with it. He understood that innovation meant nothing without humanity. Each product was not a device, but an invitation for people to express themselves, explore ideas, and connect with the world. This chapter of Steve's life showed the world that creativity does not fade with hardship. It evolves, deepens, and reveals what matters most. Even in moments when his energy was limited, his presence remained powerful. He believed that life's most meaningful achievements come from following one's curiosity, trusting intuition, and maintaining clarity even when the path is uncertain. His story became a reminder that true innovation begins within, long before it appears in the world. As Steve entered the final chapter of his life, his relationship with time began to shift in gentle, meaningful ways. The ambition that once pushed him forward softened into reflection, and he became more aware of the moments that truly mattered. He spent more time with his family, appreciating the quiet conversations and simple routines that grounded him. His illness reminded him that life is fragile, yet also filled with opportunities to connect deeply with the people you love. This awareness brought a calm clarity that shaped his final years. Even while stepping back from the intensity of day-to-day leadership, Steve continued to think about the future with a sense of quiet purpose. He believed Apple's strength came not from products alone, but from the values woven into the company's culture. He wanted to leave behind a foundation rooted in simplicity, intuition, and emotional connection, principles that guided him from the earliest days in the garage. He trusted that if these values remained intact, Apple would continue creating meaningful experiences long after he was gone. This trust allowed him to release control with peace. During this period, Steve began sharing more of the wisdom he had gathered throughout his life. He encouraged others to follow paths that felt true, rather than paths chosen out of fear or expectation. He reminded people that intuition could be a powerful compass when given space to guide decisions. His reflections carried a softness that came from lived experience, shaped by both triumph and hardship. Through these conversations, he hoped to inspire others to live intentionally. Steve often spoke about the importance of looking inward, of understanding what makes you feel alive and connected to your work. He believed that creativity came from honoring your inner voice, even when the world pushed you in different directions. This philosophy helped him navigate countless challenges, and he hoped it would help others find clarity in their own journeys. He encouraged people to trust themselves, to stay curious, and to approach life with authenticity. These ideas became some of the most meaningful lessons he left behind. As his health continued to decline, Steve approached each day with a mix of acceptance and quiet determination. He understood that the future would unfold without him, yet he found comfort in knowing that he had contributed something valuable to the world. The products he helped create were not just devices, they were tools that empowered creativity, communication, and expression. He believed that technology should elevate the human experience, and he felt grateful to have guided that vision for so many years. This gratitude softened the weight of his final days. In the moments when he reflected on his life, Steve saw it as a tapestry woven from curiosity, risk, and unwavering belief in possibility. He recognized that his path had not been linear, and that every setback had shaped him in ways success never could. His journey taught him that growth often emerges from the quiet spaces between victories, where reflection turns uncertainty into insight. With this understanding, he embraced the fullness of his story, the mistakes, the breakthroughs, and the lessons that connected them all. This acceptance gave him peace. As Steve's time drew to a close, he felt a profound appreciation for the people who had walked alongside him. His family, his friends, and the teams who helped bring Apple's vision to life all played a meaningful part in his journey. He valued the shared moments of creativity, the late-night discussions, and the collaborative energy that sparked innovation. These connections reminded him that his work had never been a solitary effort, but a shared mission built through trust and collaboration. This realization brought warmth to his final reflections. When Steve passed away in 2011, the world mourned the loss of a thinker whose ideas reshaped modern life. Yet even in his absence, the impact of his work continued to expand. His emphasis on simplicity influenced design across countless industries, and his belief in intuitive technology changed how people interacted with the world. The principles he championed, clarity, intention, and emotional resonance, became guiding stars for a new generation of creators. Through these principles, his presence remained. Steve's story continues to inspire not because of the products he built, but because of the mindset he carried. He lived with an awareness that life is short, that choices matter, and that meaning is found in the pursuit of what feels genuine. He showed that even in a world full of noise, a quiet sense of purpose can lead to extraordinary outcomes. His journey invites others to explore their own ideas, follow their own intuition, and trust the quiet moments where inspiration begins. It is in these moments that creativity unfolds. Now, as you let your mind settle, Steve Jobs' story becomes a gentle reminder of what it means to live intentionally. It encourages you to slow down, to listen to the quiet truths within yourself, and to trust that your path will reveal itself in time. You do not need to rush or force your way forward. Clarity grows naturally when given space. Allow his journey to reassure you that meaningful progress often begins softly. Every step you take with intention becomes part of your own story. As this calm documentary draws to a close, take a deep breath and let the weight of the day fade from your shoulders. Know that your ideas, your curiosity, and your voice have value, even when the world feels overwhelming. You are allowed to grow at your own pace, guided by the quiet compass within you. Let your thoughts drift gently, knowing that tomorrow holds possibilities shaped by your intention. Tonight, rest fully and peacefully. Good night.